Wait, what? Are we back? So we are. Okay, so where were we? In the last section, we learned how to take the response from Pixabay API, and then we logged out the list of images that we got from that Pixabay API. So now what we want to have happen is after we get that response from the API, then we set it onto our component state, which will then cause our component to re-render, and then we can print it out on the screen. So right now, remember, we just want to print out the number of images that we fetched. So to add in state to my app component, I need to first initialize my state at the top of this class. I will say state equals an object, like so. So now we have to decide on a property name for this state, and I'll just call it images, because we're going to store an array of some of these images inside of this state object. Then I'm going to put an empty array in here because we are going to use the map function that's built into the array object in JavaScript. Okay, so now instead of the console log, I'm going to update my state with this dot set state. I'll put in here some images, and it's going to be a response data hits, like so. So now after making a request over to Pixabay API, we get the response, we pull out the list of images, and we set it on our state object, and that will cause our component to re-render. So then the very last thing to do is down here underneath the search input, print out the number of images that we fetch. So I'll just say we have, and open up curly braces, and then this state images length. Now here's another reason to default our images property to be an array. Because if we had defaulted it to be null when we try to access this statement, images at length, we would have seen an error message and it would say, cannot access property length of null. And it would be right. So why don't we go ahead and save this, and I'll just flip back over to the browser and do a test. All right, so right now I'll see the default because we have no images. 0 bupkis. So I'm going to enter flowers in here and hit enter, and we get an error message. Bum, 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 bum. It says set state is not a function. So this error message, doesn't it seem familiar? Where have you seen it before? So it is an identical error message to one that we saw before, but it seems to be complaining that our value of this, or some property on this that we were trying to reference, is not as it appears. So why don't we go back to the code editor and console log the this in here. Console log this. So I'll save. And I'll do another search for flowers. Okay, so now we can see the console log, and you'll notice here that the value of this is on search submit. So in order to reach the state object of our app component, we want it to be equal to the instance of our app component. So this is the exact same problem that we went over a couple of videos ago. So in order to fix this, what do we need? We need to use one of those two strategies that we had done previously. We can set up a constructor function and bind the onSearchSubmit method, or we could set up an onSearchSubmit as an arrow function. Ding! Now you remember. So either one of those is going to work out just fine. So why don't we just fix it by assigning it as an arrow function. Now, before I do, I'm going to remove this console log here. We're going to turn that function into an arrow function, and this time it's going to be slightly different because we have this async keyword in here. So I'll first begin by removing this async keyword. Then we're going to turn this thing into an arrow function just as we did previously. Then I'm going to put async as a keyword right before that argument list, just like so. Okay, so we'll save this, flip back over to the browser, and enter dogs. Okay, see? Now we have 20 wonderful images of dogs. So that's it. That is data fetching inside of a React application. It's very fetching, don't you agree? All right, doggy, go fetch. So why don't we pause here? Get it? Get it? Pause. And I want to see you in the next video in just a minute.